Welcome to another episode of DD on the Spot. As always, I'm your host, Ryan Johnson. And before we get into it with our guest here today, well, first of all, if you've been listening to the podcast for any significant amount of time, it's been about a year and a half since we last had her on, but we got Alexa back on the podcast. She's on to give us an update on what she's been up to and, yeah, just talk all things health and fitness like we did before. But, Alexa, thank you so much for coming back on.
Oh my God, thank you for having me.
Absolutely. Well, I do got to say, first of all, it has been, a significant amount of time, and you've had a lot of stuff going on. Like you said, you have your clothing company, Metal Saints, which I'll leave a link to anything down below that anyone wants to check out. You've got super shredded for a prep, which I will be having photos pop up as you talk about that recently, because it got to a point where even I was like, does she even have any skin on her? Basically, what's going on? What's that all about? But yeah, other than that, it's been a year and a half. What have you been up to other than those things I was talking about?
So, Metal Saints has been great. Prepping myself has been great. I've also been coaching a lot more than I was probably the last time that we spoke. I've had a couple clients go through preps and absolutely kill it. And other than that, I've been gallivanting, getting around and seeing the world. My family went on a trip to Greece this past summer, which was really cool. Super surreal experience. It was, yeah, incredible. The history there is just, it's almost like you can feel it when you get there. It's pretty neat. And then we're going on another trip this year, tentatively with my family to Bali, Indonesia, and Singapore. And my partner Josh and our family and his family are going to Milan. So lots of traveling this year to super cool places.
And I have never left the U.S. unless you count Canada, which I do not count. So
I haven't been to Canada.
I've always wanted to go to Greece, though. I'm a history minor in college. The only reason I wasn't a history major is because I would have to become a teacher, basically. And, God forbid, that's too early for me in the morning. But anyways, yeah, so so going to Greece, I have at least a dozen sites in Greece that I would just have to check off my bucket list if I ever went there. So yeah, that is absolutely awesome. And how do you deal with the food wise when you go on those trips? Do you sort of just let yourself have a free for all, or do you still try to maintain a balanced nutrition when you're on those trips? Or
Yeah, so I actually find that if I'm completely just off the rails, my anxiety goes through the roof. And so what I like to do is so that I can still enjoy like the culture's foods and their delicacies and stuff like that. I'll take a couple of containers worth of protein, just throw it in gallon Ziploc bags. And my goal is pretty much always to hit my protein goal and then for the rest of it, just kind of eat intuitively and eat until I'm satisfied or full. And so that way, especially like the longer that I've been doing this, the more acquainted I've come with what that means because I have had a history of overeating and then starving myself and the typical, what diet culture kind of promotes. But at this point, I am a lot more in tune with my body and able to say, okay, I'm satisfied, or no, I think I want a little bit more.
I do gotta ask because it's a huge part of Greek cuisine. Did you try the lamb?
I did try the lamb. Super, super good. Yeah. But you know what I was really disappointed with? We went to Spain as well on this trip and we got paella. And it was supposedly the best paella place in the entire town. And it was very not impressive. I know. Massive bummer, right? So I'm gonna blame it on like just that place and maybe that town just didn't have good taste. But yeah, it was kind of a bummer. We didn't get really great paella.
Well, I heard especially over there, the surface can sometimes be a little bit, hit or miss, especially in the European countries where it's because you don't tip the waiters over there. That's the big thing though too, is that then they don't have that much of an incentive to be overly
Right.
nice and stuff like that to you. So that's
It's less of a experience.
yeah, absolutely. But I must have just forgot this. But when you said you prepped yourself, so you looked like that when you prepped yourself. What the hell?
I did not prep myself. I prepped
Okay,
other athletes.
okay. I
Yeah,
was
yeah,
gonna say if
yeah.
you prepped yourself looking like that, what the
Wow,
hell's
thank
going
you.
on
That would
there?
be, yeah, that would be super impressive. That would be very, very cool.
Oh, okay, so we got that out of the, but because yeah, like the moment that you said like I prep, I was like, wait, what? So you get, but anyway, so like we do gotta talk about that last prep because like I said, photos will be popping up as we talk about this, but like you got like insanely shredded. What was that experience like, and how has that prep been different from your other preps? Because I don't remember if you've ever done a prep where you got that much of a look really achieved.
Yeah, no, that was by far the leanest and most conditioned that I've been. Surprisingly, that prep was technically, I did not do as much cardio as the prep prior, and I didn't go as deep into the reserves on calories as I did the prep prior. Um, I gotta be honest, mentally, it was definitely far, far more challenging. Like you said, I got a lot leaner and I could feel that. Prior to going into that prep, my head coach and myself, and the way that I coach are very, very health oriented, health driven. And so I got blood work done before committing to this prep. And we noticed that my thyroid wasn't functioning as optimally as it could be. So in my head, of course, I'm like, okay, well, is there even a point to doing this? Because obviously, like, you go to the extremes and you don't want to put your body through something and ask things of it when, if your blood work's not in a good place, it may not respond in the way that you want. And so then you're doing all this effort for really not a lot of reward. And so fortunately, it wasn't too terrible. Um, I definitely like demonized and made the worst of what could have possibly been the outcome of my slightly off blood work. So I ended up I was I needed some help with creating TSH and T4 converting into T3. So I got a prescription, I saw a doctor, and I was able to start my prep healthy, which we love. And um, that being said, once my thyroid was actually working and I started cutting food out right after coming back from Greece, I felt it.
So wait, you did less cardio. That's come on.
I still did a lot of
Well,
cardio.
I know, but still. Oh yeah, absolutely. Though if you would have told me that like you did zero cardio, I just would have hung up like right then and there. I just would have. It's not worth it then. It's not worth the conversation then to have that. But still, I mean, that is very impressive. But like you said, you struggled with it mentally. How did you deal with the whole mental side of that? Because I mean, when you're that lean, you got to be pretty foggy.
Yeah, yeah. So you definitely, when you get deep enough, it's kind of funny. I would remember some days I would wake up and I would get in my car and I would drive to go to the gym to do my cardio, and I wouldn't even feel like I was actually in my body. I felt like I was like a little Sims character, and I had the little, green thing floating above my head. I'm like, do 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 do, turn into here, go to the gym. You stop like experiencing life as a human and you just go onto autopilot. So like when that mental fog hits, which it definitely does, um, if your autopilot is not execute, that's kind of where you'll either make it as a successful conditioned bodybuilder or you won't. Um, so as far as getting through the mental fog of it, I fortunately didn't have enough calories to really think too much, which it is something that you don't really consider. Like when you have full calories, that means that your brain is operating at full capacity, and you can have issues with anxiety, depression, etc. When it kind of bogs down and it slows down, unfortunately, you don't feel the good things either, but you also kind of stop feeling the bad things, which is nice.
What she's telling everyone is if you have anxiety, depression, just starve yourself. It will be worth. No, I'm just kidding. But no.
Not do that. Do not do that.
Alexa approved. Everyone. No, I'm just kidding. Now, I'm just
Oh
kidding. Everyone,
God.
do not starve yourself if you have anxiety, depression. But yeah, I have found that like especially when I got COVID and I was getting a little anxious, like I didn't eat as much, and that definitely played, I think, a factor in it, like not being as anxious anymore. But I will say, what was your nutrition like during this, whole last prep? How did you change things up from other preps?
So, as I mentioned a little bit earlier, Fortunately, food didn't get as low as it did my previous prep. In fact, it's the highest it's ever been. I never went on to trace carbs, which is freaking neat. Um, Whereas previously, I think last prep, I was on trace carbs and fats. I had one fatty meat throughout the day, so either a salmon or a steak. But other than that, I was on trace carbs and fats for 5 weeks. So I know that that doesn't sound like a lot when you say it like that, but when you're also asking your body to do 2 hours of cardio and to go train for 2 hours a day and to recover from that and to sleep, it every single day just feels like you were trudging through mud. But in the same breath, part of me this prep was also like, if you didn't have them at all during the day, you wouldn't miss them. And so I only had them for my pre-workout meal for a long while in my prep. And so part of me was like, dude, you know what? You get this glycogen, you get these happy chemicals happening because serotonin comes from the gut. I'm eating carbs, my gut is happy, and then it's gone. I digest carbs wicked quickly. So part of me is like, yeah, I do wish that I had them. And then another part of me was like, I was kind of better off without them.
What do you think is one area of your physique that you improved on the most since we last had you on?
Definitely my posterior chain. My hamstrings for sure. That was my weakest part. And I finally learned how to engage them and how to feel them in my posing, which was something that I've definitely heavily struggled with. So I don't know that physically that is necessarily what I improved upon the most, but it's definitely what I connected with the most. As far as um, actual improvement, last year my feedback was that I needed to bring up my delts or shrink my legs. Um, I did neither. Well, I didn't shrink my legs. I did bring up my delts. My legs also grew. But I do think that I really, really liked the growth that my shoulders experienced and the width that I had up top. So I think that that was probably my biggest improvement when it comes from a like tissue standpoint for sure.
How did you learn to incorporate the posterior chain more in your posing? Was it just an aha moment, or was it just what
So
led to it?
yeah, so I had worked with a lot of posing coaches before, and I'm also a posing coach myself. I have a dance background, and it definitely aids in allowing you to be able to pose and feel your body engage and move. Um, but I had heard of this guy named Kenny Wallach, who is he's been in the NPC
Half
scene
of my
for,
guests have seen him. Yes, he is the
yeah, yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
but yeah.
He is been in the NPC scene for a very long time. He's very good at what he does. And so I worked with him, and 3 sessions in, I was able to feel them engage, and I was able to see what they were supposed to look like in pictures. And it was great. And I would not have had the aha moment without having had those sessions. So it was really cool. And I actually, the day that I learned and felt how to engage my hamstrings, we were on FaceTime, Kenny and I, and he sent me a screenshot of it, and I started crying. I was like, I don't even have the calories to be doing this, but I am.
I bring this up every single time I hear his name on the podcast, but how does he have enough time to do it? Because like he deals with so many people. I don't understand how he has enough time in the day to do all of that, but I want to have him on just so I can ask him like, what is your time management like, so that I can have some tips maybe with that, because like
He is very to the point.
okay
He is very to the point.
okay
He is he does have to have very good time management, but he is very direct, and I think that that's part of what makes him such an effective coach.
I have heard that before too, and yeah, that's you cannot be vague if you're that busy, really. So I think that's
Yeah,
kind of just a trait that goes along with it. But like you said, you prepped athletes as well. How has that gone this last few years?
it's been great. So I've worked together on a couple of preps for a couple of different classic physique guys. One of them competed in the NPC natural, and he absolutely killed it. He crushed it. He looked great. And then I had my own girl who she lives in Canada. Her name is B. She's wonderful. She competed this past year at uh, Battle at the Bay in Houston, and she killed it. She was prepping for bikini. She likes to lift heavy. She executes protocol to a T. She is truly like, when I say a dream client, she is a dream client. I hope she's not listening to this because she's going to get a big head. But she executes, she communicates, she is amazing. And so we're prepping for
No, if
bikini.
she is listening, you gotta say one negative thing about her then, though, so that she can.
Okay. She had to get ACL surgery, and so
Okay.
she's actually recovering right
So she
now.
has. So she has weak. So
And
she has weak bones, is what you're trying to say.
she has weak bones,
Yeah. Okay.
and we're not working right now because she can't train. So, she hasn't been around for a couple of weeks. But I'm just kidding. She's doing well. She's recovering well, and we're going to get back to work very soon. So I'm excited for that. But um, her weakness is that she grew too damn much. She overshot bikini, and she is now going to be working her way up into figure, which I am so excited about. She's going to kill it in that division. She has the shape for it, and she definitely has the work ethic. So I'm excited to see her grow.
Is there a certain limit that you have as someone who's prepping someone who, when once they reach that limit, you're like, okay, you're good for figure now? Is there like a certain, like, is there an amount in someone's physique that you're looking for before you're like, okay, yeah, you're too big for bikini now, or is it just over time you're just like, okay, I think we're, because for me it's always hard to just judge like the moment someone crosses bikini to like figure, or figure to physique, or physique to bodybuilding.
Right. And so I think that line becomes even more blurred, like the bigger you get from physique to bodybuilding or figure to WPD. For her, she definitely had size and she definitely had tissue. I think that the biggest struggle that we had this past year was conditioning. We really had to push for it. And this was obviously our first season together, so I wasn't, I was still figuring her out. And she brought the conditioning by far. She was very conditioned for bikini. I think when it comes to deciding whether or not the athlete should belong in a certain division, um, the issue lies in that regional shows don't necessarily uh, exactly portray what we're seeing on the pro stages. So it becomes a lot more difficult to know what your judge wants specifically. Do they want there to be a gap between where they're at and where the pros are? Or do they want them to look as close to, the Olympians as they can? And so this past season, it definitely felt more as though they wanted there to be a gap. Um, they wanted her to be softer and they wanted her to be a little bit smaller. Um, both of which, in my opinion, relative to pros, I think that she had the tissue and the size of pros. I think she was a little bit softer than the pros. Um, so that's the part that it becomes very difficult as a coach. Are you coaching your athlete to be what a level below the pros are, or are you coaching them to be the best bodybuilder that they can be, whether that be on par with the pros or not? So I don't think that, put simply, there is really an explicit answer to knowing on an amateur level what division a client should be in. I like to prep my clients to look like the pros, as close to the pros as they can get. And again, it's a subjective sport, so maybe the coaches or the judges feel differently, and they are very entitled to. And at the end of the day, it's their opinion that matters.
Yeah,
So
it's obviously a person to person basis. I mean, once we get into the whole genetics and everything like that, I mean, good God, it's really just, yeah, it's down person to person. But I do gotta ask, what was the protein difference like between the man that you prepped and the woman that you prepped? Because like that is I see the differences in that, and I'm just like, holy crap.
So my client could eat. She eats. She in her off season, she'll throw back 38 to 4,200 calories. She can eat. So um, the protein difference probably, and in their deepest points, I believe that she was up around 210. And he was probably up around 290. But relative to the majority of females, that is definitely on the higher end. Like for myself, I don't really go much above 180. I'm not particularly tall. I am pretty
So wait, you had
dense,
someone who was
but
prepping at the time for a bikini show that was eating more protein than you were.
exactly, yeah. And that's the thing is like
Yeah.
people think that it should just be a mathematical equation of like division versus height versus weight or something like that, but it's not. It's not even a little bit. I wish I was eating as much food as she got to eat.
Yeah, I had two things of chicken breast right before I went to bed at like 3 a.m. last night. So I might have to start sending some of my guests once I get into the prep, just being like, doesn't that look so good? And I'm just gonna like have like some. I'm just gonna have it all spicy and just all. So yeah, but yeah, the amount.
It sounds good.
Yeah. Well, and then you have a person like one of my dad's best friends. He's one of those just genetic freaks where he could eat 10 Snickers bars a day and just not gain an ounce of fat. He's one of those, and he's like in his 60s now, so it's like it's not.
That's incredible.
I keep
Truly.
telling him, say, I hope God's playing a cruel joke on you, and one day you wake up 400 pounds, but it hasn't happened yet. So my dad said, and they went to college together, and then they used to work at the same job. And he said, yeah, he would go to the vending machine at least a dozen times a day, and just
That's wild. That's
I
incredible.
hate him.
Uh, my partner Josh is pretty much the same way. He stays very lean, very vascular year round. Like he could eat 5,000, 6,000 calories every day for months on end and not get above 12% body fat.
Please tell me that he just tortures the crap out of you when you're on prep. Just he orders like pizza and all that stuff, and it's just like, oh, Alexa, doesn't this look so good?
Well, that was part of prep that was so mentally challenging was that we actually prepped together
Okay.
and he didn't have to do nearly as much cardio and his food didn't drop nearly as much. And
So is
so
he
the
still
year
sleeping then
before
when
that,
you get up to do cardio then, and then he's just like, oh,
oh
I'll do
yeah,
some
yeah, yeah.
later? Yeah, yeah.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. And he didn't his sleep never got affected. So like when you're
What the
really
hell's wrong
training
with this guy? Is he like a robot or
right,
something?
right? Am I right? You get it. Oh my gosh.
Jesus.
Yes. So annoying.
I might have to have him
But
on next and be like, dude, what do you do? Like, rub off
on the other hand,
some of it onto me. Jeez, man.
I do have a lot easier time building tissue, which is in the sport of bodybuilding kind of a benefit.
Yeah. See, there's like we talked about with the genetics and everything. There's drawbacks and there's always positives too. But like when you're that shredded and that lean, what were some of the reactions that you were getting like from people? Because like I always talk about how like when you walk around in a bodybuilder look, you're like a mini celebrity where you're just gonna draw people's attention just because it's human nature when they see something that's not the normal, just be like, wow, that's fascinating. But when you were that shredded, like I said, like it was like I, scary in a good way. Like it was scary where you're just like, okay, like what's going on here? So like, what were the reactions that you were getting just from people in general?
Oh my gosh. Wow. This year was actually a lot different than years prior. So, at the gym, obviously, all those people are used to kind of seeing you. However, there was a large influx of people, specifically like high school boys,
Oh
that
God.
started going to our gym. So I definitely got a lot of um, Jesus Christ sort of things. Lots of um, very colorful cuss words
Just
sort of
like, bro,
things.
what the fuck is that? Basically, just like,
Yeah, and so some of them were very like I think were very positive, and some of them were definitely like I am intimidated and I'm going to respond by projecting this onto you. So it kind of goes both ways. Either way, I found it really flattering because I knew that I was doing something that was like really important to me and super difficult. As far as things that I got not in the gym or like in a place that, you would typically see somebody walking around like a meat suit. um, got a lot of how much do you bench, how much do you squat, sort of things, which is really funny because when you're like that shredded and that lean, you're really not that strong. Um, I fortunately didn't lose too much strength, but it is funny that that's what you get asked when that is not at all. Like I am very strong right now. I was not 2 months ago. Um, but yeah, lots of those comments. Got asked a lot, like if I was a bodybuilder, if I was a CrossFitter, which was interesting. Yeah, I feel like CrossFitters typically have like a really solid core because they have to be able to be so agile and have a lot of stability. I don't think I really looked like a CrossFitter, but I took it as
Well, the
flattering.
thing with CrossFitters that I've always found, so it's like biceps, especially like if they do a bicep flex, like their biceps look not weird, but like they're not like shaped.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah, yeah,
they're just
yeah.
like they're just lengthy, really. Like they're not. They don't have a
Yeah.
peak or anything. Like it's just.
And they
So like,
typically have like that plank core
yeah.
because they can do anything. But yeah, anyway, not a CrossFitter, but I did get asked that a couple of times, which was very interesting.
Please tell me when you got asked if you're a bodybuilder, you said no. I just woke up like this.
Yeah, I said, no, I just hate food.
This is what
A
this
couple of
when
times
you
I did
starve
say
yourself. This is really what happens. Yeah. We are not
that.
promoting starvation. I'm going to leave a disclaimer down below. By the way, me and
Oh my
Alexa do not
God.
approve.
Yeah, no.
Some people are going to
I
watch this
just
and
was kind of getting
you're one climate.
entertaining myself with the
Oh yeah,
responses.
absolutely. No, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. We're gonna watch it. We're gonna have some people be like, I tried to starve myself just to look like Alexa and it didn't work out. And I'm just gonna first of
Don't
all,
do that.
if you do and it does, then give me a call and then tell me like if that does happen, then everyone. But again, everyone, do not do that. We are just joking here, everyone. You would think that people would be smart enough to realize that, but there's always a few idiots out there that you gotta like just shake them down, just be like, no, we are just joking. But I do, guys. Did any of those high school gym bros challenge you because that is the ultimate gym bro douchey high school dudes?
Yeah. I mean, yes, yeah. There was one dude that he's like walking around, and he ended up meeting my partner Josh, and Josh was also in prep. But like I said, Josh looks pretty freaky year round. And this kid had asked him if he was in prep or something like that, and he was like, yeah. And then the kid goes, oh, there's this other person in here, that this chick in here that looks like she's in prep too. And he goes, oh, you mean Alexa? And he goes, yeah, she looks crazy. And he goes, oh, yeah, that's my girlfriend. He goes, no way. You know her? And it was really funny. And it was like he was meeting like I don't know, like a action figure or something. It was funny to hear the story afterwards. But um, yeah, it definitely feels like you're kind of like an alien walking around at some points.
The moment you said high school gym bros, I was just shaking my head because like that's I was once one, but hey, the moment
We
I
all
graduated,
were, you
yeah,
know.
well, especially in high school though, like especially like that was luckily we had like one of the best gyms at our school, so like we never had to go to like any other local gyms, but like yeah, once I was a college gym bro too, I'm not gonna lie, but yeah, once you graduate and you kind of hopefully they grow out of it, but yeah, this I heard this so many times, bro, dude, what the fuck, just all this.
Yep.
Oh my god.
A lot of that.
Yep, absolutely. And well, now and I'm a I'm a boss now, so I deal with a lot of younger people too, and just the new vernacular. I just don't understand it now. I'm 28, but I'm dealing with a lot of people like they're like 19, 20 now, so it's just I gotta look some stuff up almost, and like, what does this mean? Like
I
when they
feel the
say,
same way.
like when they
Okay,
start
okay.
saying bet, like I didn't understand that. I was like, wait, what? Like, what do you like? Okay,
Bet.
so yeah, yeah. That always I'd say like, hey, can you go do that for me or whatever, and they'd be like, oh yeah, bet, and I'd be like, okay, like, are you gonna do that for me or like
Bet what?
exactly?
What are
So
we betting?
I did have an 18-year-old on the podcast a couple times, which by the way, I will send you photos of this 18 because like she is insane looking for someone who's
Yeah.
eight, and she's like really short, and she is like all natural too. So I'm gonna have to send you a photo because like it's coming out this coming Monday. Her podcast is, but yeah, she looks absolutely insane. I'll have to send you a photo. I'll have to send you like some of her or her Instagram or something like that. But anyway, I mean, you mentioned it briefly, but I do got to bring this up because, as you can tell, I am suffering from sleep deprivation myself just because of my crazy work schedule that I'm currently on right now. But your sleep did get affected a little bit. How do you try to at least maintain somewhat of a normal thing? Because I'm popping these bad boys, every night basically. But other than that,
Yeah.
I need tips desperately.
Man, I'm an insomniac, so I get that even not in prep. And then your estrogen gets tanked and you really don't sleep. The biggest thing that I can say was getting down a good sleep hygiene routine. So I got to the point where I was in bed within like 10 minutes of each other, of like a 10-minute window every night. And then beyond that, I like to listen to Sleepy Time podcasts. I listen to Nothing Much Happens, which is basically like an adult storybook that somebody just talks to you, and they take you through a little meditation, some deep breathing to unwind, and then they tell you a lullaby, but they speak it, they don't sing it, fortunately. And after that, it did get to the point that like I would just wake up in the middle of the night because I had to pee, but I had to drink water before I went to bed because otherwise I wouldn't feel full. So it was kind of like not a great cycle. The other thing that I did do, and I'm still using, is raw nutrition makes a really good sleep product. It's kind of a powder. The only thing I don't like is it does have melatonin in it, but it's only 3 milligrams for a full scoop. It's got L-theanine, magnesium, lots of things that just kind of help bring cortisol down. And so you make it into like a little drink, and the flavor that I got was strawberry kiwi. It's super good. But they also have a grape. And at this point, I actually just dry scoop it, which feels a little hardcore for right before bed, but I do it anyway.
Well, I gotta say, well, no. What do you got against melatonin?
So melatonin is unfortunately habit forming. So the longer you take it, the longer
You're
you
not
take
taking this
it,
from me.
the less likely it is that you can produce it on your own.
Okay.
Yeah. So that's the only reason that I don't like to use melatonin like weeks on end. You can definitely cycle it. So like I would recommend doing it 2 weeks on, 2 weeks off. But if you take it every night, you'll stop producing it, which kind of sucks.
I honestly only use it like when I get these crazy work cycles because like my work cycles in and out too. So like, yeah, it is like I took it 2 nights ago for like the first time in like a couple of months. But yeah, I only do it like if I'm still up at like
Oh,
5 a.m.
okay.
Then I'll obviously just take I'll take like 10 milligrams and I'll just be like, yeah, okay, I'm take me to sleepland or whatever like that. So yeah, for me it's yeah. I used to do it every single night for like 2 years straight, like especially during COVID when I was just like, okay, I couldn't sleep anyway just because I had nothing else to do the rest of the night anyway or the morning before or the morning after.
Yeah.
So yeah, that was a whole thing itself too. But I mean, we talked about this last time and bring it back up again. But I mean, like this sport changes so much, and like you said, there was a different sort of look that maybe they were looking for this year. But how have things changed? You think in like the last 2 years since we've had you on? Because I had you on before competition season, I think 2 years ago. So it's been 2 years. But what have been some of the biggest changes that you think you've seen just from bodybuilding in general?
So bodybuilding in general, well, first I'll speak to myself. My feedback this year was that I outgrew figure. So I was too conditioned and too big. Again, relative to pros, I don't think that that's the case. But relative to what they were looking for, that was their feedback.
If I
So
didn't know you were so short, I would have agreed with them. But then when I realized it, like you're 5 feet tall, I was like, okay, yeah, that's not really a thing. Yeah. So
yeah. Yeah, I don't think, I mean, I'm very flattered that they think that I belong in women's physique. It's a beautiful division, and I love the fact that you get to perform and be barefoot. But I don't know that I think that I belong in that division on a pro level. So as far as what I imagine my plans are is to continue to work towards a stage and get on it both in figure and physique, probably both at a local show and a national level. Like I said, their feedback was that I would have done really well if I was in WPD. So that's kind of where I'm headed. As far as bodybuilding
well, wait, are
go,
you at least happy that you can now do the poses that God intended bodybuilders to do with the physique poses?
I am very happy. I am so looking forward to getting on stage as a physique competitor. Assuming that that is what's in the books as I continue in my off season and go into prep. I would be absolutely thrilled to be able to do that. I think that their posing is so cool and so sick and just beautiful and powerful, and it's also allowed to be a lot more individualized. I feel like you can show your personality a lot more. Whereas, wellness is typically like sassy and fiery and stuff like that, and bikini is cute and flowy, and figure is kind of like the Wonder Woman division, in my opinion. Yeah, exactly. So I am looking forward to definitely being able to show a little bit more personality with posing.
You really
Um,
just like look at these traps. Basically, that's like you got for figure. Yeah, it's like that's yeah. So yeah, but
Yeah, I love figure, and I believe that I belong in figure. But I definitely am looking forward to the um, flair of WPD. As far as bodybuilding in general has changed, man, I feel like it's changed a lot. Though I am very happy with the outcomes of this past Olympia. Um, in figure, Jessica Reyes-Padilla getting top three, I am so thrilled about. She got second place, which I believe she deserved. But I do find it interesting because, in my opinion, she's definitely gotten bigger, and she's moved up in placings, whereas Sydney Gillen has pretty much stayed the same size, definitely improved upon conditioning. But I do find it interesting that they are now rewarding a slightly bigger look for figure. And then I guess the same would be true for WPD. Natalia is like one of my favorite physiques across the board. I'm really glad Sarah can get shredded, but Natalia just has like that, like warm and fuzzy, but like powerful woman kind of thing to her. So I'm super thrilled that she won. As far as like men's open is concerned, seeing Derek Lunsford in open and breaking the top five, that that's amazing. He has one of my favorite physiques, and despite him not being super, super tall, I think it's super cool that he's still, competing with people like Big Ramy, in fact, beating people like Big Ramy, um, despite again not being tall and not in that same breath not being able to have 300-pound off seasons. So I'm really glad to see kind of like where bodybuilding has come this past year. Um, in the same breath, I'm going to wag my finger at Arnold Sports for taking out figure, women's physique, and bodybuilding. It is the most. Can I cuss on here?
Absolutely.
It's the most fucked up thing. Okay, we're only keeping the two divisions that are relatively sexualized compared to the others. And I love wellness and I love bikini, but they do show off the glutes. That is what we are looking for. The pose has you arching back. It's not showing off upper body strength. And that's why they took away bodybuilding previously, was because it wasn't feminine enough. That's why they took it out of the Olympia. That's what they told us explicitly. So, what are we supposed to take from it now that we are being taken away from figure, women's physique, and bodybuilding? It's really bothersome to me. I think that all women should be able to train and present themselves however they are and however they please. And the fact that we are now not only able to not do that, but it's not being celebrated at one of the second biggest
Yeah.
bodybuilding competition in the world, I think it's really messed up. And I think that it's taking away um, the spotlight from so many women who have worked so hard to be where they are.
I mean, in Arnold's defense, they have an arm wrestling championship, which is way better than anything. Hey, they know how to replace things, okay, everyone. That's the no. The moment I saw someone posted about that, and I was like, wait, that's what they replace things with? Because apparently, like that.
It's just really disappointing to me. There were hundreds of women that competed in the Arnold Sports Festival in bodybuilding, women's physique, and figure that rely on that money. I mean, that is one of the biggest shows, the second biggest show, and that's where a lot of people will get sponsorships, and that's where a lot of people will get exposure. And to just wipe it out because it's not feminine enough, I don't think that's fair. I don't think it's right to any of those competitors or athletes. And I really hope that they hear people and hear them when they say that they're angry that this is happening.
Yeah, there has been a lot of obviously, anger, and I've talked to a lot of guests about it, and hopefully, yeah, they do make things different with the rules, and they do allow all those areas back again, because yeah, it's like bikini wellness, yeah, they're great and stuff like that, but it's like it's not even like the bodybuilding category. It's like you're gonna have bodybuilding, but you're not gonna have the category named after the sport. I just don't.
Right, right.
I just don't
And so
understand.
it just feels like they're asking, especially female competitors, just to fit a specific mold. And if you don't fit that mold, you don't get to compete.
Yeah, I don't want to see Andrea Shaw as a bikini competitor. I'm sorry. Like I just don't.
No, nobody wants to see that. She's a
I mean,
unit
it would
and
be hilarious,
a
but like it would be
piece.
bad. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. No.
So anyway, I
Which, by
wanted
the way, we
to
didn't we didn't
get
talk
that
about
one
that.
off my
We didn't talk
chest.
about that for the thing for the bodybuilders. Obviously, she's going to win every single year that she's still alive and competes. So it's who's coming in second basically, and I think everyone just has to deal with that. But
She is 100% the new Iris Kyle, in my opinion.
I had her on one of the right before she won her first one, and yeah, she had trouble fitting into the screen. So I was like, okay, yeah, she's this is. It's like what's going on here, everyone. So yeah, and she's a great ambassador for the sport. She's super nice and super down to earth. So yeah, I appreciate, every year that she wins. That's just I always make a post about where like there's only two sure things in life: death, taxes, and Andrea Shaw winning the Olympia. So
I love it.
there's that. But yeah, and I asked you this question last time too, but again, it's a question I ask every guest every single time they come on. If you could change one thing about the sport of bodybuilding, obviously adding the stuff back to the Arnold, but if you could change one other thing about the sport of bodybuilding and everyone would go along with it, would be one thing that you'd like to see changed?
Can this be like a made up thing that doesn't?
Absolutely hypothetical, yeah.
Oh my God, if I didn't have to do cardio, well, then it wouldn't really be special. So I'll take that one back. Change one thing about the sport of bodybuilding. It would be,
Money.
oh yeah, that for sure. Yeah, yeah, yeah. We need more money. This sport's expensive. It's expensive to do it. We don't really win that much. Um,
I would need a sugar mommy if I ever wanted to compete in this sport, and that's not going to happen, everyone. So, yeah.
One thing I would change, I think it would be cool if there would be a way for people to like be able to show off their physiques without having the tan. As a pale person going through prep, it is so hard. I mean, I know it, yeah, you get it. It's hard to be objective. It's hard to be objective about yourself, especially without a tan. You kind of just look like a scrunched up piece of paper.
Here's the thing though, like if you look like super shredded when you're this pale though, then you know that you're gonna do like great. Like if you can see those lines, but yeah, the tan. Can you imagine how many tans it's gonna take me? How many coats I'm gonna have to put on?
You're
It's
gonna be at least three. That's what
at,
I
at least three just to be even be able to see anything. Are you kidding?
am.
I'm gonna bankrupt the damn tan company basically. Either that or I'll put their kids through college. Basically, that's the two scenarios they're gonna plan out. But I see. I have that pale Norwegian Scandinavian skin where it's like I only get sunburnt and it's just in see same yeah. Look at how mine reflects off of the sunlight though. It's like Twilight with the vampire said it's not sexy at all. It's just like ooh gross. That's why especially if I'm going out to the beach, like I gotta warn people. It's like it's just people are just gonna be like because it's gonna be so bright. It's not even that it's attractive looking. It's just because it's so bright that people are just gonna be like, what the hell's going on? So yeah, the tan would definitely be one thing for me too, and the money too, where it's like my thing has been once you earn your pro card, you should get like a stipend. Not even that, it doesn't have to be a lot. Like let's say like 10, 20,000 just a year, just so that you can cover a lot of bases so that you don't have to
Right.
be financially strained. Because like having a full-time job and doing this sport, it's so much harder
Draining.
than it needs to be.
Oh
So
my
like
God.
and you really
Yeah.
have to be one of the top competitors to be able to afford like not having to have a full-time job while doing like Andrea Shaw, because I mean she could just sell that car that she wins every year and then afford it. But like you have to be like a top athlete to like be able to just be like, no, I can just focus on my training and maybe
That
train a
would
couple
be
people just for fun, just in the free time. But
mhm,
still,
wild.
it's hard
That would
enough.
be very cool.
Yeah. And if you'd see the better results too, like if people had just the bodybuilding to focus on, are you kidding me? Then the results would be better. I don't get why they don't ever do that, but I also learned, first of all, that they do gotta but they gotta lower these damn ticket prices for some of these shows.
Right? Okay, so the ticket prices versus the cash pot,
Yeah.
feel like it doesn't really add up
So for the
sometimes.
show that I went to, it was an amateur show. They didn't even get their pro card. Like it was just like a showcase kind of thing. I think it was like $35 for the morning show, and then it was 45 for the night show. And like before that, I'd always wondered like how do these promoters make that much money? Because if they only had because we had like 500 people there or whatever, but like if they only make that how they make that much money, and then the moment I saw the ticket price, I was like, oh, that's how they make their
Oh,
money.
you think that's bad? I haven't seen a show in Texas under $100.
What?
And yeah, for morning and night show, but minimum $50 for like prejudging and finals.
Well,
Minimum.
here's what also made this show unique because it was at a casino, so they had a bar and everything in the back.
Yeah, that sounds nice.
Oh yeah,
That sounds
all these
fun.
people down on prep then taking shots. Yeah, let's see how that turns out that night then and stuff like that. So
Oh my gosh.
what? Well,
I
I do guys.
actually
What is your
I
alcohol
used
intake like after like like how low is your tolerance? Like if you were to even like after a show, like it must be like one
so
shot and you're just done.
my the night before a show every night I do 3 ounces of vodka and I am feeling good, baby.
Alexa, we need to have an intervention. You have a problem. So
Oh my God, I get a little
yeah.
loose. Like, all right, I'm ready for bed. I'm dehydrated. I'm thirsty as hell, but I am lit, baby. Yeah, it's great. Your tolerance is zero. And yeah, it's wonderful.
That's why if I know I'm going to a wedding, I purposely don't drink for like 2 months prior to that, just so that the tolerance gets a little bit lower, just so I can know that I'm gonna have a good time. So I got a wedding coming up in like 2 months. So starting this weekend, I'm not drinking anything again. Normally I'll just have like 1 or 2 beers a weekend, but then it's just like, yeah, I'm purposely going sober for the next 2 months just so that my tolerance is like 1 to 2 beers less than it would normally be, so I don't have to, worry about it as much.
Incredible.
But yeah, and I mean, Alexa, I'd love to have you back on a year from now just to give us an update. Where would you like to be at a year from now? What are your current goals for this year?
Current goals for this year. I am, like I said, growing Metal Saints significantly this year. I'm really excited about all of that. So hopefully going to be having, I just moved to a warehouse, which is a super cool feeling. So hopefully going to be having some employees for that by 365 days from now. Um, Coaching, I'm hoping to bring on some more competitors. I love coaching competitors. I love coaching lifestyle athletes as well. But those competitors that just want to show up and get work done, it's such a cool thing to work with them and see their bodies change and kind of their mindsets change too, honestly, as they go through getting to know themselves better and becoming competitive bodybuilding athletes. Um, and I hope to be more world traveled, which I will be. But yeah, that's kind of the that's kind of the big goals between now and next year. As far as bodybuilding is concerned, if I see a stage this year, it'll be wonderful. If I don't, then I will work on getting ready to see one in 2023 or 24.
Other than the places that you're planning to travel to this year, is there any place that you haven't been to that you're looking forward to the most?
Um, like outside of the places I'm going this
Yeah.
year. I would really love to go to Thailand and Vietnam, see Southeast Asia. That's definitely on the top of the bucket list.
I had a great uncle that would go there, and he was a Vietnam vet, so it was kind of awkward. But he said he really enjoyed it too, like actually like going back and seeing that. But I will say, I've had friends in college that went to Thailand with like a grand. You can live like a king for a month basically there.
Right?
So
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
he was living in a 5-star hotel, which I think it was like $10 a night for 5-star
Hmm.
hotels. Prime rib steak was like $5 or something like that. Like it was
Yeah.
ridiculous. Like beer was like 25 cents. So it's just like, yeah.
I would I would love to live like a queen for a month in Thailand. That sounds amazing.
I mean, just be warned though, you will get accosted by a lot of people of the night. Like he said, he couldn't leave the hotel without like 3 or 4 different people accosting him. So you got to get used to that. But again, it is. I've always wanted to go there. Me personally, this summer I'm trying to go to Norway to go visit the relatives in Norway. I've always
Very
wanted to
cool.
go there. To me, like, and they live on a fjord too, which is like the most beautiful thing ever to me. So I've always
Yeah.
wanted to go and see that myself. But I do got to ask you about Metal Saints. So, what is the hardest thing about having a clothing company that's designed for especially people that are more into fitness too? Because like that is with all the different shapes and sizes. I've already asked this question before, like how your clothing options as a bodybuilder are so limited. But when you're designing clothes for more of the healthy oriented people, what are some struggles that you deal with? Because like it is not really a one size fits all for so many people.
Struggles that I deal with. Oh man, imposter syndrome. No.
For the first 50 episodes, that was me too. Where I was like, why do these people even want to talk to me in the first? Like, why would they even want to agree to come on and talk to me? And then after I was like, because I'm charming, and that's why. So that's that. But yeah,
You are
I dealt
very
with that as
charming.
well. I appreciate that.
Um, let's see. As far as fitting the clothes is concerned, that part actually I don't really find too difficult because I have the physique myself and I know what feels good. So being able to translate that to like other athletes, I'm finding probably it's like the most helpful part. I know what cuts look good on, female bodybuilders versus male bodybuilders versus wellness, bikini. I know the divisions. So that makes it super helpful, I think, in the actual design of the clothes. As far as what's difficult about it, it's definitely hard to do everything, I guess. I'm like in charge of marketing, in charge of design, in charge of sourcing, in charge of you know, getting the products here and then getting them into our warehouse and shipping everything out and customer service and doing my taxes and like everything. So I think that the next step that I'll be taking is to be hiring on some more help and delegating. I presently have one employee and she's wonderful. But the hardest part is being able to wear all of the hats. As far as the designing is concerned, that's my favorite part. I'm actually wearing one of my sweatshirts,
Nice.
and the back is actually pretty cool.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
Nice.
So um, that's my favorite part.
Yeah.
That's definitely the part that I don't have problems with. I love designing. I love creating things. So that's what I spend a lot of my free time doing. And it's still considered work.
So when it comes to designing, because like here's the thing, me and art, I don't have a really good relationship with art because I'm one of those guys that goes to an art exhibit and just says, "You call that art?" Where it looks like someone was like 5 years old and they just like finger painted stuff. So to you, what makes like a? How do you get your inspiration for your designs for a t-shirt? Because like, yeah, the design on the back was great, but like I know some people that design t-shirts and you're like, I could literally have been just straight up hammered and thought of something better than that. Like I don't get that. But like, so how do you come up with your designs for your shirts? Is it just one of those like moments of clarity, or do you just start scribbling stuff down and just see what
Yeah.
works? Or
So all of them so far have actually been kind of like, I don't know if life lessons is the right word, but I will go with that for right now. All of the designs so far have kind of been centered around like life lessons. So the first one was the original Saints, and we had the dagger on the front. And on the back of it, there were three women who were kind of warriors, and they were built women, which is something that I think is so under celebrated in our culture, in our society. So that was kind of the purpose of that one, was to um, put out what we are, and that is a culture of people who support people who look different than us, who are into things that are different than us, and that are undying passionate about what they do, as well as like marching to their own beat. So the first one was definitely a bit more eclectic. It was intended to be inclusive. Our second one was the moon phases. So the back of it says, like the moon in all its phases, I am still whole. And so that's definitely something that, especially like as a bodybuilder, we struggle with. Um, and I know that that relates to any person in any capacity, regardless of what their discipline is. But, you know, there are times that we face inadequacy, but that doesn't make us any less or important of a person. And I really wanted to highlight that, like the moon, I'm still whole. And then the third one was the Set Your Soul on Fire tee. And I drew a phoenix on the back. But that was kind of a quote that I don't know if I heard it somewhere a very long time ago, but it's something that I've lived by for a long time. And what I mean by that is do what sets your soul on fire. So, at the time that this quote really resonated with me, I was working in a 9 to 5 job in corporate America, very unhappy, um, not satisfied with life. Yeah, it was rough, and I knew that I wanted more out of life, and that that was not the end for me. I was not meant to wake up, go to work, pay my bills, and like die at the end of my life. And so when the pandemic hit, I was offered the opportunity to leave with severance pay, and I took it and I started Metal Saints, and I've been coaching. And that was my turning point to chase what set my soul on fire. So that's kind of what that tee highlights. And then this last one, the sweatshirt, is the Be the Good sweatshirt. And so that is something that I've also really put a lot of energy to into the past year. I've spent a lot of time understanding, uh, I guess, inflection in myself and meditation, and getting a better understanding that all of our energy really is related, and that if you want good things to happen, you have to feel them inside first. And that, like, truly manifestation will exist. Like if you work hard enough and you believe enough that something will happen and you execute to get it to happen, it'll happen. And in the same breath, you should want that for everybody else around you. And to me, that is being the good. It is being about love. It's being about positive energy and being present and being grounded. So that's kind of what this most recent sweatshirt is about. It's really fuzzy and comfy, and I've kind of been living in it for the past few months.
yeah.
But yeah, every t-shirt, I guess, design kind of comes with a like a life lesson sort of thing.
Sorry, I was having a Hello Darkness, my old friend moment when you were talking about how you were able to finally quit your job and get out of the rat race because I'm honestly just saving up enough money before I can do that myself. So I am,
Yeah.
again, if my employers hear this, I'm not. Wink, wink. So I plan on being there in the long term. So there's that. But yeah, so I'm glad that you were able to do that because yeah, don't just yeah, weeks go
You'll
by and
get
you're just
there.
like, what am I doing with my life? Yeah. So I've had that. Believe me, I've been thinking. There have been times where I haven't slept just because I'm not crying, everyone, for all the guys out there, but I'm just been like, okay, what am I doing with my life? Like, this is ridiculous. Yeah. So, anyways, we're not gonna get down and dire as we end the podcast here. But again, Alexa, thank you so much. And is there anyone that you'd like to give a shout out to before we wrap things up?
Shout out to you for hosting such a great podcast and having me on. I really appreciate
Appreciate
it.
it. We were gonna have her on
Uh,
sooner, everyone, but I got COVID right before Christmas, so I was stoked about that. But yeah, anyways.
I'm glad you're feeling better. Only other shout outs I think would be to, everybody listening and friends, family, loved ones.
Shout
I
out to the high
appreciate
school
you
gym bros.
all.
Keep being you.
I appreciate you guys. Shout out to my haters. Okay, that's terrible. I'm sorry. But yeah, no, I appreciate everybody listening. I appreciate this community. I appreciate what it affords me to be able to do and being a part of it and being able to interact with you guys. So I have a question for
Yeah.
you. What is DD on the spot?
Okay. I've explained this a couple times, but I never really explained to the guests. So when I was coming up with names for the pod, because this is only one of the 3 podcasts I do. I do a celebrity podcast and I do a history podcast. So earlier this week, I took the day off just so I could go interview one of the last World War II combat vets that lived in my home city. So that's part of my history channel where I just do stuff like that. But DD on the spot was because in college, I was the designated driver on most Fridays. Now Saturdays I would make up for it, in spades. But on Fridays I was known as designated driver on the spot. So then I would all my friends they would always have my number, and I would just be driving around all night, picking them up and making sure that they got home safe. Don't ask me why. It just got to a point where for Fridays normally I had late classes too, so I couldn't really be drunk for late classes at night on Fridays. Now I'm talking I'd be out of class by 7 o'clock, but so that was for a couple of years, and then obviously once I got to be 21 where I could actually go out and stuff like that, then it got away. But then when I was coming up with podcast names, I just remember everyone always used to call me Dee. That was the nickname then, even though RJ was my real nickname for a lot of people, but they'd call me Dee when, especially on Fridays. So when I was coming up with podcast names, that just popped in. And so
That's funny. I like that.
So when people were like, "Oh, you're talking about double D boobs or something like that," I was like, "No, it's not that, because why would it be D? Why would it be DD on the spot then? Why would it be?" So, there's people like that. So that is honestly how that came to be. And I've been thinking about changing it because originally this podcast was for bands and up and coming bands and musicians. And that was the first 150 episodes. And then I was like, hey, I've always been in shape. I've been fascinated with bodybuilding just because for me, they're absolutely crazy people, but they're nice, crazy people. So they're the good kind of crazy, but I'm just fascinated with how you can put your body through all of that and still be alive, honestly. So I started doing bodybuilders. So then it got to a point where I was like, should I change it? But then it got to a point where so many people recognize it as DD on the spot, where you can't really change it. So
Yeah,
that's just how it came to be. So yeah,
thanks for telling me that story.
Absolutely. Well, I do gotta add last question. So Valentine's Day is coming up. This podcast will be out after Valentine's Day, but do you do anything special on Valentine's Day?
So our anniversary was actually on the 7th, and then Valentine's Day is the 14th, obviously. So each year we're switching back and
That's
forth.
a rookie mistake right there. You never get together with a girl a week before. But come on, guys. You wait until the day after at the very least. Come
on. We kind of chose an arbitrary date because we don't know when we actually started dating, since we were long distance. So we kind of just chose the last day of the first weekend that we hung out. Which was again very arbitrary, but now we're all right, well, it's right before Valentine's Day, so this year I took our anniversary and we got couples massages, and then we went to this dank Vietnamese place and had super super good Vietnamese food. So yeah, it was a good little anniversary. I don't know what's in store for Valentine's Day.
I don't know what mine is either, everyone. So we'll figure it out as it goes. But again, you guys, Alexa, thank you so much for coming back on the show. I'll leave a link to all of her stuff down below, including her clothing line. Also, I'll leave a link to her boyfriend's podcast, too, because he has a nice podcast as well that everyone should go and check out, too. But again, everyone, this is Ryan Johnson, DD on the spot, signing off. Have a great day, everyone.